The good idea with other body part terminology is that it could be more comfortable for an individual to use if their dysphoria is severe enough that standard terms make them feel bad. Hmm. I don't know if I buy that. I mean, not on a societal level, certainly. Like if you're a therapist in a clinical setting and someone's like, please don't use the word vagina, don't use the word penis because it makes me uncomfortable. I've got a lot of dysphoria regarding like okay, like if, but even then I'm not even sure that's the best approach. Like there is sort of this coddling approach. And again, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know fuck. I'm just spitballing here. But there is this sort of coddling approach that we have in society. And I wonder if this like okay, if you're upset about this specific thing, you should avoid that thing. I'm not sure that that's actually good. Like maybe in some specific circumstances for some specific people, it might be. But we do see like the trigger warning stuff. I'm pretty sure studies have come out and shown that trigger warnings are actually counterproductive, that they don't help people overcome trauma at all. Yeah, and yeah, let's look this up again. I don't want to promote fake news, so now I got to switch back over. I'm not in the middle of a game, am I? Oh no, I am. It's I purposely picked a game where it's yeah, where it's just me by myself. The other people I'm playing with, I'm not on a team, so if I fuck up, I'm not going to hold them back. And I'm 100% going to fuck up. I'm just going to half-ass this defense. But that's okay. It's random unit defense. It's not much you have to really do anyway. All right. Trigger warnings effectiveness. I'll do the New Yorker. I feel like they generally do a pretty good job. Earlier this year, Brandeis University's Prevention Advocacy and Resource Center released a suggested language list developed by students who have been impacted by violence and students who have sought out advanced training for intervening in potentially violent situations. The students' purpose, they wrote, was to remove language that may hurt those who have experienced violence from our everyday use. They proposed avoiding idioms like killing it, take a stab at, and beating a dead horse. I was struck that one of the phrases that they recommended avoiding was trigger warning, and that they proffered and that the proffered explanation was sensible. Warning can signify that something is imminent or guaranteed to happen, which may cause additional stress about the content to be covered. We can also never guarantee that someone will not be triggered during a conversation or training. People's triggers vary widely. This is a very long New Yorker. It's going to be a very long article. So where do they get to the meat? If those suffering from PTSD were responding to trigger warnings by opting out of reading or discussing the flagged content, then as McNally has pointed out, that would be concerning from a mental health point of view because the clinical consensus is that avoiding triggers worsens PTSD. Oh, I didn't know that actually. Huh. As McNally has written, I mean it makes sense, right? If, intuitively, I think that if you purposely avoid the things, if you don't confront the things that bother you, they're going to continue to bother you. In fact, they might bother you even more because now you've avoided it for like 20 years, and the one time it happens, 20 years later you encounter it, like, oh my god, you don't even know how to respond because you've not built up any resilience. I feel like that's one thing that in society we've done a really bad job at. I feel like promoting resilience in people. And like obviously, look, people are going to have shittier situations, like some people, and some of that shitty situations is because of stuff that's beyond your control. A lot of it's probably stuff that's beyond your control, right? People who are born poor, people who are transgender, people people have different experiences in life. People who are in single family households, whatever. Um, you could even say that they have certain privileges and disprivileges, even, right? And obviously, people are going to have like very different experiences in the world, and some of them are going to be very negative, and it's going to be outside of their control to some extent. But we should probably, as a society and culture, promote like a degree of resiliency. You need both, right? You need to have the conservative view on a personal level, 1,000%. On a personal level, you need to have like an internal locus of control where you can address address things in your life and make changes in your life that are positive, and not just like blame the world. It's society's fault that I'm poor. It's society's fault I didn't get that job. It's society's fault that my grades are bad, right? That's a horrible fucking mindset. You know, you need to have an internal locus of control and like control your own destiny in life. And like you're gonna face certain challenges, including some that might be from as a result of society. You need to have that approach. Like the conservative mindset on that is like fucking spot on. But the conservatives go too far in that they ignore the political side, the systemic side, you could say. Like, yes, it's important that that you teach that you encourage poor people to better themselves 1,000%. But at the same time, you also have to like recognize, okay, there are a lot of people in our society who, through no fault of their own, are being born in like the world's shittiest situations, or who lose their job and lose their health care, and like we need should have like government programs in place to try and resolve this, right? You should like, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't tie having healthcare to having a job. Maybe everyone should just have healthcare as being a citizen, and we can eliminate that systemic issue. But we're also not there yet. So if you're an individual and you're like, oh well, I better just blame all my problems on society and like instead of improving my own lot in life, then you're not going to go anywhere. So you need both. You need like the liberal view, which is let's address the systemic issue and let's address the societal issue. Let's solve that problem. And you need to have the conservative mindset in your personal life to try and improve yourself and strive to do as best you can within society as it exists. And not just hope and pray that maybe someday it'll get better. Chat says every person is a person in progress and is always working on improving themselves as many ways as they have bandwidth for. It's not really others' place to be like, no, this thing is the thing you need to be working on. Learning to endure things that make you involuntarily feel bad and then proceed recklessly to make those people feel bad. Plus, I don't understand the insistence that the person must identify and use any specific term, especially if it's painful for them. I'm not sure that could be critically argued. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not. I don't know. Like, if you're a psychologist, I think that if you're a psychologist, like, you would probably want to encourage your people to overcome them, right? Because if this New Yorker article is right, then avoiding avoiding those avoiding triggers is actually bad. But also, there was I don't think this is going to reference this isn't going to reference the study. There's actually a study I think that shows that it backfires. That they actually have a negative impact on people's mental health. Oh, resilience. Yeah, you're stealing my word. What the fuck? What study are they citing though? I want to find the actual study. Several studies show that providing explicit alerts to students that upcoming class content might induce unpleasant reactions offers little to no benefit and often backfires, only making them more and more anxious. But is there like a meta-analysis? Meta-analysis of trigger warning effectiveness or impact, let's say. Overall, we found that warnings have no effect on effective responses to negative material nor educational outcomes comprehension. However, warnings reliably increase anticipatory effect. What is this? OSF? What the hell is? Okay. Do you want to dive into this massive fucking paper on trigger warnings, or do you just want to just move the fuck on? Because I'm kind of leaning towards moving the fuck on. I feel like at the very least, it we could say with a fairly let's see what is it? Let's see what it actually shows first, because I want to actually understand this, because I'm probably going to talk about this at other points in my life. And if I want to be a lazy fuck, then I don't deserve to be on YouTube. Trigger warnings, content warnings, or content notes are alerts about upcoming content that may contain themes related to past negative experiences. Advocates claim that warnings help people to emotionally prepare for or completely avoid distressing materials. Critics argue that the warnings both contribute to a culture of avoidance at odds with evidence-based treatment practices and instill fear about upcoming content. Recently, a body of psychological research has begun to investigate these claims empirically. We present the results of a meta-analysis of all empirical studies on the effects of these warnings. Overall, we found that warnings have no effect on effective responses to negative material, nor on educational outcomes, i.e. comprehension. However, warnings reliably increase anticipatory effect. Findings on avoidance were mixed, suggesting either that warnings have no effect on engagement with material or that they increase engagement with negative material under specified circumstances. Limitations and implications for policy and therapeutic practices are discussed. Huh. So basically, they're bullshit. Like, unless, hang on, evidence that trigger warnings are good for PTSD. Well, if this is a meta analysis of all the research, at least up until the date of publication, then that should be good. That should be pretty slam dunk unless new studies come out. And I mean, when was this? Last edited, oh, created August 23rd. But when was the study conducted? Yeah, is there no way to like see a table of contents? I should be one to bitch about that. My own book doesn't have a table of contents. I know I'm a huge dick. In fact, I was at a party in real life with like 25 people. It was a party I hosted, ironically enough. And one of the people there was like, "Oh yeah, you wrote a like they wanted me to read my book out loud." And they're like, "Wait, you don't have a table of contents?" And I'm like, "Do I need one?" It's like, "Yeah, as it turns out, you probably should." Uh, but whatever. It was years ago. Or, I still stand by the book, by the way. I feel like the last chapter I could rework a little bit, but um, other than that, I mean, I stand by the book 100, like 95%. Anyway, this seems like relatively recent, at least within the past few years. Some research does suggest that trigger warnings may be able to reduce stress, but only very, very marginally. A 2018 paper, though, concluded that trigger warnings were not only largely ineffective, but also in some cases amplified the anxiety people reported in response to distressing materials. Okay, so there was maybe one study that showed. I so fucking lost that defense game. There's no shot I won. Okay. No shot I'm even still in it. Effective. Oh, hang on. Some research. Students are requesting that professors are issuing trigger warnings, content warnings, cautioning that college course material may cause distress. Trigger warnings are meant to alleviate distress students may otherwise experience, but multiple lines of research suggest trigger warnings could either increase or decrease symptoms of distress. We examine how these theories translate to this applied situation. Across 6 experiments, we gave some college students and internet users a trigger warning, but not others. Exposed to ex- but not others, exposed everyone to one of a variety of negative materials, then measured symptoms of distress. To better estimate trigger warning effects, we conducted many meta-analysis on our data, revealing trigger warnings had trivial effects. People reported similar levels of negative effect, intrusion, and avoidance regardless of whether they had received a trigger warning. Moreover, these patterns were similar among people with a history of trauma. These results suggest trigger warning is neither meaningfully helpful nor harmful. Okay. Wait, this is the study that's supposed to defend trigger warnings? Okay, like I've become like even more convinced now that this was that they're not great. Dude, we're almost done with this video. It's been so long.